everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for one of our weekly General Mills focused employee. Hello there, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for one of our weekly General Mills focused webinars. My name is Samantha, and I am in client services here at the Retirement Group. I moderate these weekly webinars. In just a moment, we are going to be joined by our advisor, Wesley Boudreaux, and he's going to be speaking to General Mills employees about how providing for adult children could potentially be hindering your retirement planning. Before I bring Wesley on, I would like to very quickly remind you that although we work very closely with both active and retired members of General Mills, we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by General Mills. The Retirement Group is a completely independent group of financial advisors, so please keep that in mind. After Wesley's presentation, I will rejoin him very quickly to ask him any of the questions you may have entered into the Q&A chat. We will try to answer as many as we can. It is completely anonymous. We encourage you to ask away, and we will answer as many as we can, time permitted, of course. And with all of that out of the way now, let's bring on our speaker, Wesley Boudreaux. Hey, Wesley.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction, Samantha. And like she said, today we're going to be talking about the sandwich generation, kind of what it means to have to potentially take care of your parents as well as your kids or maybe some older adult kids staying home. But before I get started, just a quick reminder for those of you who do not know who the Retirement Group is. We are an independent financial advisory firm that focuses on working with corporate employees and helping them transition into retirement. We've done this for quite extensively for a little bit over 32 years with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. Now, this is going to be more generic talking to everybody. So if you have any specific questions on your specific company plan, just go ahead and reach out to us and give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out with that. Myself and a lot of the other advisors here are focused on some select few companies. What that does, it gives us the ability to have a deeper understanding of your benefits plans inside and out, whether it be your pension, your 401k, your life insurance, healthcare, retiree medical benefits, things like that. Should you have any personal questions on your specific benefits, don't hesitate to give us a call. We do have offices throughout the country, so rest assured if you need to sit down with somebody face-to-face, we can likely still accommodate that. But obviously, this day and age, it's very easy to have web meetings, phone calls, email communication, whatever your preferred method is, just go ahead and let us know. And again, as I mentioned, we work extensively with a lot of different Fortune 500 companies. But at the end of the day, that does not mean that we're endorsed or employed by them. But again, because of our extensive background and working with them, it gives us a good level of understanding of all your benefits. At the end of the day, I'll talk about this at the end because we can talk to we're blue in the face about planning, but until you actually put a plan together, you're not going to really see what the overall long-term outcome looks like. So take us up on our complementary cash flow analysis. This is actually a detailed financial plan structured to show you where you stand, whether you're 5 days, 5 years, 10 years out from retirement. Let you know if you're on the right path to meet your retirement goals. Should you deviate from those? Maybe do you need to work a little bit longer? Could you retire earlier? Do you need to cut back your spending? Things like that. We can go through all of that, which obviously ties into play with some of the topics we're going to talk about today, which again is the unforeseen expenditures maybe on your parents or on your kids or adult kids, which we'll talk about here as well. So getting into the topics, what we're going to talk about again is the sandwich generation. I myself am kind of moving into this here slowly but surely. Hopefully not. I've got aging parents, but the sandwich generation is going to be the generation where we might be responsible for taking care of our parents, whether it be financially, physically, emotionally. There's probably going to be some type of caretaking involved in that. And then at the same time, you're also taking care of your kids. I got 5 kids. We got 5 kids. So if I were having to take care of my parents at the same time as the kids, that obviously is a hindrance to potential retirement savings. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Now, if you've got young kids, it is what it is. You got to take care of them, obviously. But if you have older kids that have unfortunately maybe moved back to live with you for a couple years or a couple months, then it may be a different situation. We'll talk about some of that today as well, how to maybe kind of mitigate some of that or educate them on covering their own, if you would. We'll talk about the financial challenges faced with supporting the family members we just talked about. I'll give you an example or two of kind of how it adds up over time and the impact it can have on your personal retirement plans. So again, at the end of the day, the goal is to set aside enough money to build yourself a sound retirement plan so you can retire when you want to and enjoy the retirement years. But again, some of these other aspects can hinder that. So we'll talk about that throughout the course of this webinar. So the stakes. I mentioned the sandwich generation right now. About half of the sandwich generation, if you would, 47%, are actually delaying retirement in order to support their family. And I can speak to this from experience because we work with a lot of clients that unfortunately are kind of stuck in the same situation. I've got some that go 4 generations where they're actually, taking care of a parent, and they've also got a child and a grandchild or two staying at home with them. So there's 4 generations in the family, and they're at the latter part of their career. Maybe they're in their early 60s or so, and they were hoping that, hey, this is the time I'm going to kind of pad my savings, if you would, in order to have a sound retirement. But on the flip side, they're not able to do that because they're spending more on the entire family situation. At the end of the day, it becomes a needs versus wants, and a lot of times we do need to protect and take care of our family, but we also need to kind of decipher the differences between needs and wants when it comes to helping and supporting those adult kids, and we'll talk about that as well. But right now, one study shows the average expenditure on housing an adult kid is going to be about $1,400 per month. So obviously, if you're spending that on a child and it's excess expenses that you weren't planning on having, it can diminish your long-term retirement savings quite extensively. Let's face it, a typical goal we've all have is if we're going to raise a family, we're going to cover those kids hopefully through college, maybe a little bit beyond or so, and then hopefully we're empty nesters or they're off the books and we're able to increase our retirement savings and kind of catch up and build more through those latter parts of our career in order to pad our retirement. Now, in some cases, those kids are staying in college longer or coming back and staying home or disrupting some of those. And just take a look at that $1,400 for an example. $1,400 a month. Let's say if you had a child come back home and stay with you for a long period of time, let's say 5 years. 1,400 a month, 5 years, $84,000 of expenses over that 5-year period. And then if you fast forward, what would that amend? What would that admit? What's the opportunity cost? That $1,400 a month for 5 years invested, let's say in your 401k or a brokerage account or something like that, getting just a basic 6% rate of return, that would grow to about $98,000. So just shy of $100,000. And then take that a step further. Let's assume that your child came back to stay with you about 10 years prior to retirement, and they stayed for 5 years. So that same amount, that 84,000 you spent on them, if you would let that grow another 5 years for that overall 10 years, would have been about $130,000. So you might be spending 84,000 out of pocket on this 1,400 a month, but in the end, it might be cost you $130,000 in order to take care of them. So the question becomes, drilling down on your budget, your expenses, and how much are you going to actually support those children again on their needs versus their wants. So let's kind of get to some of the steps we talk about in order to have a better understanding of the situation and some clarity between you and your kids that are potentially staying with you. Number one, you got to prioritize your retirement savings and the goals. You need to educate those children, whether they're as young as mine or whether they're in their 30s or 40s, on what's going on and what to do and how to plan for their own goals as well. And you need to set boundaries. Let them know that the bank of mom and dad is closing or there's repercussions, and educate them on what that means. So first, that's step one, prioritizing the retirement savings. Again, the necessity and benefits of early retirement savings are quite clear. A lot of times, we've talked about this to we're blue in the face. You hear it, on the radio, you hear it on TV. The earlier you can start saving, the better. That's the compounding of money effect that you get on there, and the consequence of delaying retirement savings can compound as well. So I just for fun, I took that $1,400 a month as an example again. Let's go back and let's assume that that's exactly what you can afford to set aside for retirement. And maybe you are doing that in your 401k or elsewhere. But if you can put $1,400 a month away for retirement, and you've got 30 years ahead of you, that's going to add up to again going to a basic 6% rate of return. That's going to grow to about $1.4 million. Now on the flip side, if you waited 5 years and did the same $1,400 a month for 25 years instead of 30 years, it's only about $975,000. So that's about a $425,000 difference in that 5-year period. So that could be something as far as you just waiting, or it could be that you're taking care of the kids longer, so you're not able to save quite as much. So again, that long-term aspect does compound. So it's really important to understand that. And in some cases, let your kids understand this and know this as well, because let's face it, you may be supporting your parents now, you're supporting your kids now, but there may come a time where they have to turn around and exchange the favor and support you later on. So they need to understand how to actually save for themselves as well. So let's look at the oxygen mask analogy. We all know when you get on the airplane, the flight attendants will come on and tell you what to do. And God forbid we get in a situation where the oxygen mask drops, but they always tell you to put your own mask on first, to take care of yourself, then take care of your kids, because let's face it, if you're not there to survive, then it's gonna be tough to cover them. So same situation with financial planning. If you're not able to take care of your own retirement planning needs or cover your own expenses, and how are you going to be able to take care of that child that may be relying on you a little bit longer than what he or she should have been doing? So you need to make sure you take care of yourself. One first and foremost issue is, even if it comes to your pension pennies and you say, look, I've got to help out with the family. I can't save anything right now. You want to at least, make sure you've got an emergency fund set aside and built up. But if you are working and you've got a 401k, you want to also make sure you can at least take advantage of the employer match. Most companies these days still do employer matches. Maybe it's dollar for dollar on the first 5%, or maybe 50 cents on the dollar for the first 6% or 10% or something like that. But whatever it is, it's free money. So let's assume your company was giving you 50 cents on the dollar for the first 6%. So you want to make sure you at least can put in 6% on your company contribution, on your contributions. That way you'll get 3% from the company. So right there at the minimum, you're getting 9% contributions, and that 6%, although it may sound like a lot, may not be that much in the end. Once you start doing it, you'll learn to live with it, and hopefully later on you'll be able to increase those contributions as well. Or hopefully sooner rather than later, those kids that may be staying home have found a job of their own, and you're able to increase that contribution as well. But again, you want to do this to help avoid financial strain in those golden years. Again, the entire plan is to plan for your retirement. For some of us, that may mean that we want to retire as soon as 55. For others, it may mean that we're working until 70, 75. So you got to figure out what your overall goal is, and determine, how do you get to that path, and then talk about how to manage some of these potential derailing aspects of the kids staying at home, or maybe helping out elderly parents as well. So as far as step 2, it's educate those children, whether it be me educating smaller kids, or whether it be somebody educating their 20-something that just graduated and can't find a job and is back at home. But the education comes early, and it comes often. But you need to educate them on financial responsibility and financial behaviors, because let's face it, unfortunately, our schools these days, media and social experience are not necessarily going to be that favorable towards savings and educating our children. We need to take control of that. Let them know that maybe they just got out of college and they're used to things being not free, but getting that credit card and getting a student loan to cover college. Let them know that student loans are not the same in real life. You're not going to be able to borrow your way out of retirement. Those student loans need to be repaid. And you need to actually save your own money for retirement. You can't just borrow from mom and dad or borrow from others in order to fund your retirement. You need to encourage that financial independence so they can do some of this on their own. And it could get it could be as open as you telling them, what your specific situation is, letting them know, hey, here's where we are. We're not struggling, but the more you take from us, the more it could hinder our retirement planning. And hopefully they're not going to say, hey, we want mom and dad to work another 2 years just to help us out. So if they become more involved and understand what the overall family situation looks like, it may be more beneficial for them, and maybe they'll actually have some morality, and they'll work with you in order to help take care of themselves. Because let's face it, I'll go back to that $1,400 a month example again. If the kids staying homes cost you $1,400 a month, and maybe they've graduated and they're looking for the job they want, doesn't mean they can't go out and get a part-time job or do some work in the meantime. I wouldn't be bashful going and working at a fast food restaurant, or do anything, as long as I'm bringing money in to help my parents. So $1,400 a month, 40 hours a week, that's about, I think, $8.75 an hour. I think most places pay $8.75 or more an hour nowadays. So if you need to talk with them about getting a part-time job or getting a full-time job until they get the career they're looking for, have that conversation. Don't be afraid to decipher needs versus wants. I've had a conversation with a client last week, that's taking care of her adult daughter, and just kind of, fretting over the fact that, she's upset that, she wants everything organic, wants the Starbucks, and, is trying to, have things that she can't afford. And using her mother in order to cover some of the other costs to kind of supplement that. So again, have that deeper conversation, and make sure that the generation behind you understands wants versus needs. And don't be afraid to tell them, hey, the bank of mom and dad is closed, or make sure that Another option would be to chronicle everything, or have a ledger for everything you're spending on them. Let them see what they're asking you for, or maybe have them come to you every time they need something. So that way, the more and more they're coming to you for smaller items, they'll start to discern the difference between, do they really need something or not? And hopefully they can kind of see what type of pressure they may be putting on you. And even if there isn't pressure, still let them know, because they need to turn around and take care of themselves down the road as well. Some additional tips. You need to go ahead and diversify your income sources and planning for unexpected financial needs. So what do we mean by that is, I mentioned it before, first and foremost, you want to at least make sure you've got an emergency fund set aside, usually 3 to 6 months of expenses, because God forbid we're in this conversation, you're taking care of a family member, whether it be an older one or a younger one, and all of a sudden there's a layoff, because now that's exacerbated the problem. You want to make sure you do have some emergency funds set aside. Make sure you go through kind of a financial planning process, in which case you understand different sources of income in retirement, whether it be your Social Security, maybe you're lucky enough to have a pension that still pays out, maybe you're taking distributions from a 401k plan or brokerage account. We can go through all those with you, but ultimately by discussing that with the financial advisor is the best way to actually put that plan together. And right now, about 3/4 of Americans over 50 don't have a written plan. If you can spend about 10 to 15 minutes with us, we'll gather some data, put together that plan to let you know where you stand, and show you how it looks, not just now, but the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, what your retirement picture may look like based upon your goals and your savings. Again, I mentioned we work with a lot of different companies. So if you have specific company questions, that's where this comes into play as well. Whether you're trying to determine, hey, should I take the pension as a lump sum or an annuity? Should I retire this quarter or next quarter? What do I do with my 401k? Is there NUA? We go through all those different options as well. But if you're simply looking at getting a financial plan together, even if you're younger, we can do that for you as well. And it may be something you can reference or share with your kids. Show them, hey, look, if I support you for another 2 years, it's going to cost me X, Y, Z in retirement. It means I have to work another year or cut back my expenses. We can go through that with you as well, if you'd like some actual data to show them. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, see if any questions came through. But before I do, a couple ways to get in touch with us again is info@theretirementgroup.com, or you can call us at 800-900-5867. There's also a couple QR codes up here. One is to get into our appointment calendars if you want to schedule a call with myself or one of the other advisors at the Retirement Group, as well as if you want to follow us on our LinkedIn page, where you can get updates on webinars, or if you want to let us know your specific company, we'll get you updates on specific company information as we release that as well. So hopefully if that wasn't, I didn't chastise too many people, but at the end of the day, again, you've got to have those hard conversations and talk with your kids if you are supporting them. But with that being said, do we have any questions come through, Samantha?
Yeah, Wesley, let's answer a couple questions. This first one, is there a tax break for taking care of my adult kids?
Okay, yeah. So it depends upon if you have them as a dependent or not. So there's some different tax benefits for dependents, which are going to be, it's 18 and under, or 24 and under, still attending college at home. But the child tax credit, that's going to be for 17 and under. But there is actually it's called I'm not a tax advisor, but I think it's other dependent credit. It's something like that, dependent or credit for other dependents. And that can be a parent or an adult child, but it's based upon if you are supporting them, paying more than half of what their essential expenses are, or covering their needs. If they need a certain income threshold level and you meet an income threshold level, then you can get a $500 tax credit for them. So again, that can be a 27-year-old that's living back with you, or it could be an 85-year-old mother you're taking care of. And in some cases can be a non-family member as well. But to get into that, you might want to talk with your CPA or dig into it. But there is a small benefit, small help there.
Alrighty, thank you. Next one. Where should I save for extra expenses related to my kids?
Okay. Well, we mentioned before, you want to make sure at least you get that emergency fund set aside. Do that first and foremost. If you can take advantage of the company match, as we talked about before, in a 401k, if you have that, you want to do that as well, because that's free money. But as far as saving towards planning for kids' expenses, whether it be a young kid, most of us think that we got the day-to-day expenses. We hopefully are going to cover those. College is going to be a big one, so you can look at what's called a 529 plan, which is going to be a kind of like a Roth IRA, which you're able to save that towards their college expenses, but it grows tax-free. You could also save in a regular brokerage account for yourself. If you're saving for a child, there's what's called an UGMA or an UTMA, a uniform gift to minor or uniform transfer to minors account, I believe. You can save those for them as well, but you have to be a little careful there because when it comes to financial aid planning with the college, those accounts have higher weighting, whether or not they get financial aid. So that's for younger kids. If it's an older kids that are coming back, unfortunately, it's probably going to be, you pay as you go. But if you want to tell them, hey, look, you're coming back here. I'm only giving you 6 months. If you can afford to do it, I'm putting this, XYZ, let's say $10,000, $15,000 into this account. And that's all you get. That's all it's going to be there, whether it lasts you for 4 months or lasts you for a year. You can do something like that. But most of those are going to be after tax accounts for the savings towards kids.
Alrighty, Wesley, let's see. There's one more. I don't want to take up too much more of anybody's time, so we're just going to answer this very last one. How can I catch up if I'm behind on savings in my 401k?
Yeah, so there's you can obviously, I mentioned you want to at least at a minimum take care of that company match, but that's not gonna cut it. You're gonna have to do more. So when you can afford to do so, whether it be younger or later in life, you can start increasing those contributions, whether it be to the 401k or whether it be elsewhere into just your regular savings or a brokerage account. But if you are talking about the 401k or an IRA at age 50, they have what's called a catch-up contribution where you can put in more than the average person. In a 401k, you can do up to an extra $7,500 a year. And in a IRA, you can do up to an extra $1,000 a year. So up to $8,500 more you could put in there as catch up if you're already maxing those contributions. But again, if you're not maxing them, then you can essentially do as much as you can. Will be beneficial for you. But if you need to run a review or look at how that would change your long-term planning structure, just let us know. We can run that cash flow analysis we mentioned.
Alrighty, Wesley, that was all we had time for today. Anything else?
No, again, any questions, give us a call. A lot of this is, better kind of run one-on-one and looking at that cash flow analysis. And like I said, if you have company plan questions, let us know. We work with a lot of different Fortune 500 companies. That doesn't mean we're endorsed by them, but we've got a deep understanding of their plans. So if you need to dig into any of those numbers, just let us know as well. But we thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Wesley.
Mhm.